This is The Media Show with Jack Houghton.
Hello and welcome to The Media Show. I'm your host, Jack Houghton, and tonight, how our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, has sought to spin this moment.
The Japanese Prime Minister brought a melon.
Did she smuggle it?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm expecting.
Got a couple of melons.
She brought two.
She brought two, as you do.
She just came in looking like Pamela Anderson.
She brought two.
Yes, really.
And they're beautiful.
It is implausible he was talking about anything else, but here is our Prime Minister attempting to make that argument.
And if you look at any interviews that I've done, you know, I don't do them with my arms folded.
If people found it offensive, why not just do a Peter Beattie and say, look, I'm sorry, move on?
Kieran, I apologised for elements of the podcast. I gave an unequivocal apology. I did that. I did that very clearly. But there is nothing I have done with the Japanese Prime Minister, importantly. Her visit was a really warm one.
And the Prime Minister did not just mislead you. He actually went on to mislead foreign dignitaries. The Japanese embassy released this statement. We are aware of the reporting in the media. We have been informed by the Australian side that the Prime Minister did not make the comments in the way that has been reported. So Japan was told by our government that all of the journalists were lying and that he simply did not make the comments. It's on video. Now, that is what is so maddening about this story. He is sitting there in our lodge, smashing a glass of whiskey, talking about the melons of a female world leader with a big grin on his face. And he expects us to believe that he was simply talking about fruit, even though he had his hands up in a suggestive manner. Now, of course, it doesn't really matter, but it shows how allergic this man is to the truth. He could have simply said, sorry, I drank too much whiskey, I shouldn't have done that, and the story would have moved on by now. Instead, it's the media which is wrong. It's the journalists that are misleading you, and worst of all, it's your own eyes that deceive you. Well, joining me this week on the desk is the Executive Director of the Samuel Griffith Society, Mia Schlicht, and of course, News24.com.au afternoon editor, and of course, the host of the James Bolt Show across all of our digital platforms,
Please
everywhere
watch.
on YouTube. James Bolt, both on desk. It's fantastic having you both here in person. Mia, I want to get your reaction first. Do you believe the Prime Minister? Was he just talking about fruit? Am I the bad guy? Have I got this wrong?
No, I think I'm one of the many Australians who are seeing straight through this. To me, I don't understand why the Prime Minister is drawing the line on this one. We've seen him apologise for many of the comments made
This is his line.
in this interview, but this is the one where he's drawing that boundary and saying, no, I'm not going to apologise for these comments. And when you actually, what I find interesting is, look, the left is always about talking about context and nuance, except for when it comes to issues like this. If you look at the question that was asked, the question was, what's an unusual gift that you've been given?
I think crap gift was the word.
Yes, that's it. And being gifted a fruit is quite a normal gift, particularly because it was symbolising a trade deal. So the sexual innuendo, that was the punchline of the joke. That's the only way the joke makes sense. And it also has been noted that she gave him one melon, and then he's there going, I was given melons. It's pretty easy to see through, but this is exactly why I think that so many Australians, their support is falling from Labor, because Labor does lie. And whether it's falling off the stage and refusing to admit that, whether that's introducing policies that Australians never knew they were signing up for, this is a Labor government who cannot take responsibility when they get it wrong or when they've misled the public.
It's such a good point. It's the little things, right, James? Amir draws a good comparison to that time that Albanese fell off the stage. Was adamant he didn't fall off the stage, and it bewilders me. At one point in this Mellons interview, after Pamela Anderson has been invoked, and they're clearly talking about breasts.
There's no going back.
He gives a little hand jiggle gesture as well. And it's implausible that he's talking about fruit at this point. And maybe it started off that way. Yeah, there's the gesture. It's a jiggle. And I'm sorry, he might not like that this has created a diplomatic incident, but that's not my problem as a journalist. It's not my problem to do his diplomacy. It's our job as journalists to point out the absurdity of this, and he can repair the relationships. James, what did you think of his decision to tell the embassy that it was actually false reporting and this never happened?
What I love is that, as he acknowledged in the News24 interview, he did apologise for the Kylie Minogue comments, and yet he hasn't apologised for these comments about the Japanese Prime Minister, which can only tell me that to the Albanese government, their relationship with pop starlet Kylie Minogue is more important than with one of our most important Pacific trading allies, or you'd be going to more lengths to do it. And then from Japan's perspective, I've got an article, news.com.au, please read it. What a classy response from Japan to be like, look, they know that there was sexualized comments. All you can say is that we've been told this, but they are doing efforts to hose it down. That is an unbelievable show of friendship that the Japanese ambassador, who has done absolutely nothing to deserve any of this scrutiny and to deal with Mellongate, is willing to go, do something to sort of alleviate the situation for Albanese. That's an important ally and someone that I would treat with a bit more respect than refusing to apologise for those comments.
It was totally inappropriate, and Mia makes the point that it's a very strange hill to die on, and I think you're making a similar point about if Kylie Minogue is somebody that's distinguished enough to apologise to, then what does that mean for our relationship? I think there's another element to this as well. I think we see on the left every single case of somebody who's centre-right onwards, who's making a gaffe or has made some kind of mistake on similar lines. They're pilloried. They're absolutely pilloried. But this has been the response. We've got a clip to play of how the female leadership in Labor have actually responded to this story.
I completely disagree with that interpretation. It is 100% wrong.
The Liberals have absolutely lost the plot, trying to perpetuate this ridiculous thing.
The Prime Minister's been very clear.
There has been some significant mischaracterisations.
The remarks from the Prime Minister have been misinterpreted. He has enormous respect for women.
The PM appeared on a satirical podcast and there are people trying to blow that up.
There has been a sensationalised reporting.
Those opposite who've engaged,
Order.
who are so desperate to score political points that they are confecting a diplomatic issue.
So, Mia, the point that I'm making is, if you did that in a workplace, anybody, regardless of political affiliation, if you did that in a workplace to or about a woman that you work with, you're sacked on the spot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You're absolutely sacked on the spot. It would cause... There are very few HR teams that would try and defend somebody doing that. Yet there's a different rule for the Prime Minister, even though you should argue that his standard should be higher. Why is there this need to downplay and minimise it? And it's a gaslighting in terms of we're not allowed to believe what our eyes have actually witnessed. And it's a really weird tactic.
It is bizarre, and I think what adds to that layer of just how odd this situation is, despite this effort to downplay it from the Labor women and from various other left-wing media outlets, this story is still plaguing every appearance that the Prime Minister has, because I think that just shows how much cut through these comments have had with women in particular in Australia, that this gaslighting of we're not allowed to believe what we have seen and heard with our own eyes and ears, yet despite what we've seen and heard, we have these Labor women coming out who are the first ones to point out any lapse of judgment or error that a figure on the centre-right makes. They are the first ones to double down and make sure that person apologises and walks back those comments and is punished for those comments. Yet not only are they staying silent, but they're actually coming out in defence of those comments. And what I think is particularly interesting is it's not just the Labor women, but we're also seeing this with many of the far left influencers or media outlets, figures such as Hannah Ferguson, Abby Chatfield, who are the first ones to be outraged when they perceive comments from the centre-right to be derogatory to women. They're the first ones who are outraged, but again, they're either silent or defending it. I think it just shows, it adds to this belief that I think many women on the centre-right have had it for a long time, that accusations of sexism, it's a political weapon that's often used by those on the left, but it's not actually about standing up for women.
Advocating for
No,
women.
it's standing up for some women, but not all women.
Yeah.
And if you're a woman on the centre-right, you're not afforded that same protection.
And the women in that clip, James, would they even be able to answer what a woman is? I mean,
That's a good point.
There's another layer to that as well, where the left has just gone so utterly weird and fringe that they've gone to a point where they can't call out something which is just so obviously not true, regardless of your politics. Your Prime Minister can't make those comments about a female world leader. I just don't understand why we can't all agree on this.
I just think politics is a game, and it's a game that unfortunately Labor plays very well. We love this. I'm deeply, deeply skeptical of politicians. My libertarian heart beats true. Look, we love to think that they have principles. We love to think that they stand up. Mr. Smith goes to Washington, the royal feminists trying to make the world better. But there's only one thing they care about. That is one day every 3 years they win an election. And if you are out there telling everyone that your boss is a sexist, you are less likely to win an election. So you got to rally around the flag, and you got to, go in front of a camera and say something that's clearly sexist, that in your heart is sexist. You've got to say that's not sexist. And because winning that one day, maybe one day being a prime minister yourself, that is more important than standing up for what is such a clear case of sexism. I wonder though if they do more electoral damage by not conceding it, and maybe back in the day that used to work, but now when people have so much access to the video footage, I don't know if this works, of Albanese just saying it didn't happen, that's not what happened, the reporting is false. I do take your point, though, that it's a game, but I think you've got to give people, Australians are smarter than that. Anyway, I want to move on and talk about the One Nation protest with all these school kids, and they've left school because they don't need to be at school anymore. They know everything, obviously, to protest against Pauline Hanson. One of our reporters had a microphone taken off her by one of these people. Let's watch this moment.
Similar sentiment to where Kaiser is in prison. Sorry. Give it back. 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 Let go. What happened? She saw my microphone. It's in her bag.
What we've watched there is our reporter, Georgie Dixon, is doing some reporting on the ground, and some far left crazy person has grabbed the mic and run off. And it took Avi Yemeni and his security team to actually help her get it back. I will make the point that the Georgie gave chase. It was rather impressive.
While filming, yeah.
While filming.
Yeah.
She's an absolute gun. We're very lucky to have her. Has cornered this activist. And then Avi Yemeni's security team, who every journalist hates Avi, I think rather unfairly as well. It was up to him to actually protect the journalist. I didn't see nearly any media coverage about this. It was all positive. How good are these kids standing up? They're attacking reporters. They're aggressively taking mics off them. I mean, Mia, is this a good state for our children?
No, I think it's particularly concerning. And I also will note that as many of the police were standing around almost guiding these young children as they're shouting abhorrent things, guiding them along and not intervening when this particular incident happened. But later on, I think Avi went down to chase out someone else who was abusing him, and he was like wanting to interview them, and the police were saying, no, freedom of speech, you've got to let them speak. And it's extraordinary.
Freedom for thee.
Yes, for these young people who are just hurling out insults with no understanding of what they're meaning. But really, I think what this protest was the best advertisement for Pauline Hanson and some of her policies at the moment, because I know in Victoria particularly, she is focusing on reforming the education system in Victoria to get back to basics. Maths, spelling, reading, writing, that's what children should be learning in school, and they can go on to become activists of any kind that they'd like to be once they graduate school and they actually understand the basics. But if you look at our learning standards here in this country, and particularly in Victoria, it's really extraordinary, the numbers on just how many students don't meet the basic tests. So when you've got students running around and they were interviewed, and many of them had no idea what they were doing there. They had just been captured by activists telling them to turn up and shout these things. schools. Yet, so I really do think that Pauline's got a point that we've got to get back to our schools and get them back to doing what they should be doing, which is just learning, not engaging in political activism.
No, I agree. James?
It can be a bit confusing from that video, but I just want to assure viewers at home, the person that snatched the camera, they're on the side of peace, love and inclusion, and we're not. So I know it can be confusing when you see stuff like that. They're the good guys. I assure you, it can get confusing like that. But the other part of it, and me is so right, like the other part of it is, what is One Nation in charge of? Like, the kids that are out there that are, housing's too bad, all this, One Nation has a couple of MPs, a couple of senators, very little presence in any capital city or state government. I just don't get what they think. And I liked also Corey Bernardi, the South Australian One Nation leader. He went to one of the protests, and they're protesting One Nation, and few people recognised Corey Bernardi. Like, you would think you would have a bit more like buy-in of who you're actually trying to protest against.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Let's take a look now at Barnaby Joyce has gone on with Patricia Carvelis on the ABC, and he's explained the ABC ban in a little bit more detail.
We weren't allowed to go, the ABC, neither was The Age, neither was The Guardian. Can you talk to Pauline Hanson about allowing all media to go in?
The ABC made a huge mistake. Those comments about another lady were outrageous. And Hugh Marks actually sort of standing by them for 18 days.
Well, he's apologised.
That was outrageous. It shouldn't have taken 18 days. It should have taken 18 minutes. And it's just...
So was that the reason for the ban?
If people are really angry about where the ABC has gone, and we expect better from them.
Now, Mia, I've said on this show many times, I think it's a mistake for One Nation to ban the media. I think that they should have the argy-bargy. They should have their case, and they should take the tough questions, and they should have their piece and let voters decide. That's my view. I also think it's a misstep from an electoral voting point of view, more from a strategy perspective. But Barnaby does raise a good point. If the ABC is not fit for purpose, if it can't accept that advocating for sodomy and murder of a woman is wrong, and it needs 18 days or 25 days, depending when you're making the count. If you can't just accept that's wrong without needing to go to a committee for a second opinion, and you can't just say, this is wrong, we apologise, it says a lot about the organisation, how it's run. And it's his right to not deal with people that he think are beyond the pale and he think are so far captured and they're working as a political entity. It is his right. Now, I might not agree with it, but it's his right to kick them out, isn't it?
Sure, it is his right. I agree with you. I do think it's a mistake. But I do think, like many Australians, I do take Barnaby's point that the ABC, they didn't just make a mistake. It wasn't just the 18 days they took to apologise. Within those 18 days, they also released statements doubling down and defending what they did, justifying it. And then eventually, basically, their hands were tied behind their backs and they had no other choice but to apologise. And so the fact that there are no repercussions for what went wrong in that scenario, the fact that there is no investigation, what we can do to make sure this never happens to our national broadcaster ever again, I do take the point that the fact that we've all just kind of moved on and said, well, they've apologised after 18 days, that's nothing. We've all got to...
PK was trying to say that, wasn't she, James? She was trying to say, well, will he apologise? It's cool. It's not good enough. It shouldn't be...
He still ended in the first place.
Mia's right. He released a statement saying this was editorially justifiable. Yeah. He did that.
Yeah.
No takebacks.
No take. Well, I mean, like, it's on the record. Like, you put it out there. You at one point
you thought it was good.
Okay for air, and then editorial
said it was
justified.
A great use of metaphors.
Yeah,
so the place is a joke.
It is a complete joke. And look, Barnaby can do whatever he wants. Look, I don't like the ABC. I hate the ABC. I'm willing to go 10 rounds with Barnaby Joyce on Who Hates and More. I think the idea that it should just be a subscription model is utter woke nonsense. We need to go further. But yes, look, this is a misstep from One Nation. You can't, if you're the party that's like everyone's too triggered these days, everyone's too sensitive, you can't turn around and be triggered and sensitive.
Turn them into content.
Yeah, exactly.
And farm them,
like Trump and Caitlin Collins. Like, how many votes does he get every time?
Water the crops and then harvest.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all they need to do. Mia and James, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Well, quick break, but still to come, the left-wing media lauds the departure of Trump's White House press secretary, plus Kamala Harris is back with some advice for the Democrats. Welcome back. Now to America, where the media is celebrating the resignation of White House Secretary Caroline Leavitt. And of course, this is what the left-wing activist network MS Now trots out.
The current White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, has just announced that she's going to be departing. She'll leave at the end of the month. She just had a second baby. She wants more time, she has said, with her family here. In your book, the first rule that you wrote for a press secretary is don't lie. Is it possible to serve as a press secretary to Donald Trump and maintain that rule?
No, because you have an audience of one. Donald Trump is her audience. He clearly loves her, as far as we know. She is very good at commanding that room, though I will say, as you know well, the room has massively changed since I was there. It's much more filled with people who are there to kind of applaud Donald Trump and people who are there to spit out the Republican-given talking points than the room that I was working in.
Well, if the truth matters so much to Jen Psaki, then why is she so bad at telling it? Because in May 2024, she released a book which Axios reported as Psaki's new book, which falsely recounts Biden's watch check in troop ceremony. And yes, it was just as bad as it sounds.
One thing that's gotten some attention this week from the book, which was a story you told about President Biden looking at his watch after caskets had come back from Afghanistan. The story was not told completely accurately, which you've acknowledged. I just want to give you an opportunity to clarify what happened there.
Yeah, first, I mean, the larger story there, and the reason I included that story is because I wanted to convey a story about giving tough feedback to President Biden. So actually, my objective was to validate their experience and not the opposite. And as I've noted, it's a couple of lines in the book that we will change and will be taken out, the totality of it in the book. But my objective was actually to honor them and validate their experience, not the opposite.
Well, joining me now on the desk is the star host of The Power Hour, streaming across all of News24's digital platforms, Gabriella Power.
Hello.
Welcome back to the desk.
Thanks for having me, Jack.
Well, thanks for coming back. Now, what do you think of Jen Psaki's dig at Leavitt?
First of all, that lie was pretty terrible. I mean, saying that Joe Biden never looked down at his watch during such an important ceremony, yet there's video footage of it. Terrible job at trying to spin her way out of those lies. But then taking aim at Caroline Leavitt and Donald Trump for the way they're running their White House press room, I think is such a joke. Caroline Leavitt deserves so much credit for the way they have transformed that press room. Yes, traditional media is still allowed in. CNN still has a seat there. Plenty of Trump deranged journalists are absolutely there asking absurd questions, but they also invited in new media, such as podcasters. And I think that's really important because this administration is all about transparency. You have to give this administration credit, at the very least, for being more transparent and at least allowing the media so much more access compared to the Biden administration.
They appear to be upset that the world has changed.
Correct.
And people are consuming information and media in various ways that they didn't before. And a lot of people, for example, watch your show on YouTube and they watch this show on YouTube and social media platforms, and the way in which you access it has changed. It's not, they've painted it as some diabolical, sting at the media, rather than just a natural, of course you would want people from new media to be represented. Why should traditional media just be able to own it?
Also, if you look at the ratings, I mean, look at CNN and MS Now's ratings, they're tanking. So it's actually very important that they invite podcasters in so they can get their message out, reach young people, reach everyone of every age watching that. But Jen Psaki as well, I mean, to write that you can't lie in that job, look at what Jen Psaki and also Karine Jean-Pierre did. While they were the White House press secretary under Joe Biden, they were lying all the time about Joe Biden's cognitive health. I mean, Karine Jean-Pierre lied about whether Joe Biden was going to pardon Hunter, saying, of course, he's not going to do that. Karine Jean-Pierre also lied, saying that Joe Biden's not going to drop out of the race. I mean, so many lies on
Just
repeat.
so many examples. Caroline Leavitt was fantastic at hitting back at some journalists. Let's take a look at one of our favourite moments.
One question. So if there were peaceful protests on Saturday for the military parade, President Trump would allow that?
Of course the president supports peaceful protests. What a stupid question. Raquel.
What a stupid question. I'm sorry, but it was. When you're getting questions such as, does Donald Trump believe in peaceful protest? I mean, this is how Trump deranged some of these reporters are and some of the commentators are on these networks. Meanwhile, let's just compare, because I've actually had a bit of fun doing this. I've looked back at some of Caroline Levitt's fiery moments. She was always across the detail. I have to also say, what a star she is. 28-year-old young mom doing a phenomenal job. And then you look back at Karine Jean-Pierre. Let's just take a look.
So I have 2 questions on baby formula. So first, what is the latest update the White House has received on the current infant formula situation across the country?
Yeah, let me see if I have anything new for you on that. I think it's been a couple of days since we have been asked that question. Okay. I don't have anything new. I know we made some announcements last week. I just don't have them in front of me.
Wow, what a good performer.
It's really painful to watch, isn't it? You're just waiting, come on, you've got the briefcase there, you've got your notes right in front of you, should be across the detail. Yeah,
you contrast the two, and there's just such a clear difference in skill level.
100%.
And Caroline Levitt, because she's Republican aligned, she's not celebrated as a strong woman who's doing impressive things, and you made the point at such a young age. And it just really just shows how nasty the left can actually be to conservative women in
100%.
Prominent positions. And they talk about sisterhood and lifting women up, and it's just it just evaporates as soon as it's a strong-minded conservative woman.
Absolutely. You see that with the way Caroline Levitt's been treated, again, by the mainstream media or leftist media, the way Melania Trump is treated by the media and by so-called feminists. It's pretty disgusting, actually.
Well, Kamala Harris is back.
Let's
take a listen to this.
Not sitting around waiting for Republicans to have an epiphany. Because, you know, people's rent can't wait for that. People's health care affordability can't wait for that. Being able to afford childcare can't wait for that. And so, you know, I think there are some things that we need to do that are just about our attitude about these things. You know, when I was growing up, oh, you got an attitude? Well, actually, I am advocating for having an attitude.
Well, look, in the South, we call it being nice nasty, which is
right.
There's that laugh. I've missed that laugh.
Have you? I was about to apologise to say we've got so much 2024 content. Really? We do. Karine Jean-Pierre and Kamala Harris, the laugh. It's why people cannot take her seriously. But she's still trying. I mean, she's still, you know, pushing her message and appearing as though she's still going to run again for 2028. But she's dropped it.
Run.
I know. All the Republicans are saying, please do it. But if you look at the betting markets, she's actually dropped down. She's got about 4% according to Polymarket. But interestingly, AOC is actually climbing up at the moment. She's in around 13%. So she's tying with Marco Rubio, which is absolutely insane, and is just behind JD Vance. But AOC, of course, has been making some headlines this week by trying to distance herself from being as woke as she actually is. Let's just take a look.
The abolished prisons, abolished police, which is also positions that have been taken by a lot of the progressive candidates who have won. How do you get around that? I mean, those are not positions that are supported by
Right. I mean, I think that a lot of these races, even right now, they'll have a tendency to be nationalized.
Yeah.
But these races ultimately are local, and all politics are local. My understanding is that Francesca Hong has made clear her present stances to her electorate.
Yeah, she's moved away from a lot of that.
Right, she's moved away from it. And I have a local city councilman that has this saying, woke one was crazy.
She's got the same laugh. She's got the same laugh as Kamala.
She's woke one.
She still is woke one. I mean, if you go back and listen to her in 2019, she was crying, saying the world is ending in 12 years, which means we've got about 5 years to go because of climate change. She was saying, you know, defund the police. She still says abolish ICE. And you look at some of her positions, they are still absolutely radical, very far left. But she's trying to, as you can see there in that ABC
the prospect of being the president.
Oh, yeah.
And she's trying to to mainstream.
But also blaming someone else. So she's not actually saying
But
Ron was crazy.
we won't forget, Gab. We'll keep watching.
won't.
Gabriella Power, thank you so much
Thank you,
for
Jack.
joining us. Really appreciate it. Quick break, but still to come, asleep on the job. ABC host David Marr says that he didn't actually see any of the reporting on Albanese's Mellon's mess when it first broke, even though there was plenty of it. Joining me now, as he does each and every week, is media watchdog columnist for News24, the legendary Jared Henderson, joining me.
Thank you.
Graciously on the desk.
Graciously, yeah.
Well, it's great to have you. Now, you've spotted an amazing moment of ABC content where David Marr was not really across all the news reporting for the Anthony Albanese Mellon Gate, which is what I'm dubbing it. Let's have a listen.
Now, first the Mellon scandal. All over the News Limited newspapers. We didn't notice, but 6 weeks ago, when he was also saying he wanted to get into bed with Kylie Minogue, the Prime Minister discussed a gift of melons from the Prime Minister of Japan and held his hands in a suggestive manner. Now, we didn't notice this until today. How come? How could News Limited have missed it for... How could News Limited have missed it for 6 weeks? 6 weeks! Until it was pointed out to them. Anyway.
This guy's a joke.
Well, today was last Monday. By then, this was a huge story, and David Marr thought he suddenly found out about it, and he criticised News24 and News Corp for only them finding out about it very late. He didn't realise that News24 had broken the story in the first place. So you wonder what he's been doing.
Very proud of that.
You wonder what he's been doing for this period of about 3 weeks. I mean, this is a major program. Late Night Live is a major news and current affairs program, and the presenter and presumably as well the producer didn't even know that this story was around, which is now one of the...
using it as an attack line. He's being critical, like, oh, you know, it's took News Corp, so we didn't know about it. News Corp didn't know about it. It's false, first of all. And how embarrassing. This was a massive news story, and you're supposedly a serious journalist. You're still calling our company News Limited. And so you're out of date on that count, and you're just not across the news cycle. It's just embarrassing.
And he said it with a sort of a very affected voice. He was sort of excited about it all.
No, I'm obsessed
like
with him. He's the worst.
Suddenly found something which everyone knew about and no one ever told him.
No, it is fantastic how terrible he is at his job. I know, I'm obsessed with him. Let's talk about this article in the Monthly.
Yes.
Where it was written by Sally Neighbour.
Yes.
It's lifted the lid on the ABC. The news division, it talks about Justin Stevens, all the problems that led to his downfall. It talks about Hugh Marks and the problems that he has personally had with Justin Stevens, all the Mohammed Fazal saga. But you've spotted there was some paragraphs in there where Sally Neighbour has just cleared the ABC. And how has she done that?
Well, it's a kind of a criticism from the left of the ABC. So it's a left-wing view of the ABC. So what she wants to do is sort of counter the conservative criticism of the ABC, which is that it lacks balance and viewpoint diversity. So the way she handles that is she doesn't interview anyone who's a conservative critic of the ABC. They don't have any on their staff, but you can find someone plenty outside, including here. She doesn't do that. What she does is she goes to Margaret Simons, who's a left-wing academic, and she asks Margaret Simons what Margaret thinks, and Margaret says, oh, Dr. Simons as she is, for a doctor she is, Margaret says, oh, there's no bias in the ABC, and everybody knows this, everybody.
Nobody has ever managed to prove bias, says Margaret Simons, the very far left.
And that's taken by Sally Neighbour as sort of all the evidence you need.
Done.
Gospel.
Hey, well, okay, well, you don't need to fix the ABC. Forget the fact that the 25 days.
Just give the jobs to
apologise.
Sally Neighbour's mates and everything will be fine.
Everything will be fine. Now, on that, the failures, the ABC has had an absolute shocker.
Yeah.
The timeline for the apology with Hugh Marks, in your view, was that appropriate?
Oh, it should have been done on the first day.
Unquestionably.
Yeah, without question. And said what they did on the first day, they basically said everything was okay. Then when pressure came on, they said, oh, we'll flick it to the Ombudsman. When the Ombudsman, Fiona Cameron, came back and saying everything was okay, within 14 minutes, Hugh Marks, the editor, the managing editor-in-chief, put out a statement saying it wasn't. So this is quite an extraordinary. So what Mr. Marks is now saying, that the ABC for many decades has been operating under editorial guidelines which are not consistent with community expectations, which is a really big story. But no one sort of focused much on that within the ABC. But they've obviously been happy with this for years until they made the serious error of attacking Gina Reinhardt in the most obnoxious way imaginable, and then she fought back. And then it all fell apart. So it was bad enough this year when it started, but as the years gone on, it's sort of getting worse.
It's getting much worse. And I think it's also exposed that the Ombudsman is not independent, quite obviously. And even some of the statements, the official response that they gave to Hancock Prospecting said, well, we think this is okay, but we'll note that Hugh Marks has apologised. What that says to me is if the Ombudsman was independent, they wouldn't be doing the comms of Hugh Marks. But look, thank you so much for your insights. I really appreciate it, Jared.
Okay.
That's all the time that we've got for this evening, but stick around because up next is Lefties Losing It.